Welcome back to Outside Views. Today we're delving into a critical issue that has sparked renewed tensions between the United Kingdom and the European Union. The European Commission has taken the UK government to court over allegations that it has failed to protect the rights of EU citizens living in the UK. This legal action highlights the ongoing challenges of Brexit and casts a shadow over Prime Minister Keir Starmer's efforts to reset relations with the EU. Let's begin by breaking down the core issue. The European Commission claims that the UK has not fully implemented its obligations under the Brexit withdrawal agreement. This agreement was supposed to guarantee the rights of more than 3.5 million EU citizens residing in the UK after Brexit. Yet, reports suggest that EU nationals have faced significant difficulties, including wrongful deportations, I talked about this last week, denied entry at borders, and challenges proving their right to live and work in the UK. The situation has been brewing for years, but the latest legal escalation shows just how serious the problem has become. To understand how we got here, we need to revisit the Brexit referendum of 2016. One of the central promises of the Leave campaign was to take back control of immigration. This rhetoric resonated with many voters who felt that EU membership allowed too much freedom of movement. But what was often overlooked in the debate was the reciprocal nature of these rights. While millions of EU citizens lived and worked in the UK, hundreds of thousands of Britons also enjoyed the ability to live, work and retire in EU countries. And this interconnectedness was a hallmark of EU membership. When the UK voted to leave, untangling these rights became one of the most complex and contentious aspects of the negotiations. The withdrawal agreement, finalized in 2019, was supposed to provide clarity. It guaranteed that EU citizens already living in the UK could stay and retain their rights provided they applied for settled or pre-settled status. In theory, the system would protect them from being unfairly treated. However, in practice, the rollout has been plagued by issues. And let's talk about these problems. Many EU citizens have reported being denied entry to the UK after short trips abroad, despite having lived there for years. Others have received deportation notices due to bureaucratic errors or misunderstandings. The certificate of application, intended to prove their right to reside while their status is processed, has created confusion for employers, landlords, and even the NHS. And these challenges have left many EU nationals in a state of limbo, uncertain about their future. Now, the European Commission has decided to take legal action, referring the UK to the European Court of Justice. And this is a significant step. It not only underscores the gravity of the issue, but also signals the EU's determination to hold the UK accountable for its commitments. The Commission argues that the UK's alleged shortcomings violate European law and the principles of the withdrawal agreement. And how has the UK government responded? In typical fashion, officials have downplayed the case. A government spokesperson stated that these issues stem from the transition period and declined to comment further on the legal proceedings itself. And this approach is unlikely to ease tensions, particularly as the EU has made it clear that future agreements will depend on the UK's full and faithful implementation of existing ones. And this brings us to the broader political implications. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has made it a priority to reset the UK's relationship with the EU. His government has engaged in warm, constructive talks with EU counterparts, signaling a desire to move past the acrimony of the Brexit years. However, this court case risks undermining those efforts. It serves as a stark reminder of the unresolved issues that continue to strain UK-EU relations. And at the heart of this tension lies a fundamental question. What does the future of UK-EU relations look like? For many in the EU, closer ties with the UK are desirable, but only if they come with guarantees of mutual respect and compliance with agreements. And this includes contentious areas like fisheries, which will require renegotiation by 2026, and potential new initiatives like a youth mobility scheme. The youth mobility scheme in particular is an interesting flashpoint. The EU has proposed a program allowing young people to work, travel and study across the UK and 27 EU member states. And while this could foster cultural exchange and economic opportunities, the UK government remains, to put it mildly, hesitant, wary of any policy that might increase inward migration. And this reluctance reflects the lingering impact of Brexit-era rhetoric, where immigration was portrayed as a problem rather than an opportunity. And what about the UK's economic strategy? Despite Starmer's attempts to chart a new course, his government has ruled out rejoining the single market or the customs union, which would be very tricky anyway. But this decision places limits on how far the UK can go in rebuilding economic ties with the EU. Documents from Brussels suggest that significant reductions in trade frictions would require precisely that, rejoining the single market or the customs union. And without this step, the UK risks being stuck in a halfway house, neither fully independent nor fully integrated with its largest trading partner. It's worth noting that the economic impact of Brexit continues to weigh heavily on the UK. Flatlining growth, weak trade performance and reduced investment paint a bleak picture. The Office for Budget Responsibility has consistently highlighted Brexit as a drag on the UK economy, with long-term consequences for trade and productivity. In this context, the legal dispute over the EU citizens' rights is not just a moral or political issue, it's an economic one too. EU nationals contribute significantly to the UK's economy, working in key sectors like healthcare, education and agriculture. Failing to protect their rights undermines trust and sends a negative signal to other potential workers and investors. For a country grappling with labor shortages and sluggish growth, this is a self-inflicted wound. So, what happens next? The European Court of Justice will consider the case, but legal proceedings take time. In the meantime, the UK government has an opportunity to address these issues proactively. Doing so would not only resolve the immediate dispute, but also demonstrate a genuine commitment to rebuilding trust with the EU. And as we conclude, let's reflect on the broader lessons of this case. Brexit was never going to be simple, but the failure to adequately protect the rights of EU citizens living in the UK represents a failure of planning and governance. It's a reminder that decisions made in the heat of political campaigns have real, lasting consequences for millions of people. For the UK, moving forward requires more than rhetoric about sovereignty. It requires honesty, accountability, and a willingness to engage constructively with its closest neighbors. So, thank you for joining me on Outside Views again. What's your perspective on this case? Do you think the UK government is doing enough to protect EU citizens' rights? Or is this yet another example of the challenges created by Brexit? Share your thoughts in the comments, and as always, stay informed and stay curious. Until next time, and the next video is already right here in the end screen.